You're listening to the Go Lightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net. freedomtalkradio.net.
And then, good morning.
Explain the intro, is it?
Yeah, no, it's finished. Hi guys.
Righto.
All right, it's Sunday morning.
Hello, world.
The 2nd of November, 2014.
We had an interesting experience. We went to buy a plant.
Oh,
This
yesterday.
lovely people that have a
Trish
garden
and
full
Peter.
of plants, and right. And we were going back today to pick up another series of various plants and pots and so forth. Then we get an urgent phone call.
He phoned 3 times to get through to me last night. I just realised this morning that it's only the third one I caught.
So obviously he's been tipped off that
Don't
I'm a
come.
local lunatic, don't come, don't want nothing to do with
Oh,
it.
we're going to be
But the cure
babysitting
his
today.
wife of,
Well, we told her what
we
to
told
do,
her
yes.
cure her wife
Yeah,
of,
and she listened and she was going to do it. And also their daughter was a complete wake-up because everything that we were telling them, they had heard from their daughter. And this...
So they won't be able to keep their yap shut, and they're going to tell their daughter that this lunatic come to see them.
Oh, they may have phoned
And
to tell.
she will naturally, being open-minded and knowing that the Jews are behind everything,
Yes.
will look into it and say, hey, he's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, she's already preaching that the Jews are behind everything.
Yeah.
Sylvia knew that.
Yeah.
She said to me first, well, Sylvia says it's the Jews. Well, Sylvia's right. So the only information that they didn't have was that the Christ has returned, which they do now. So anyway, bottom
Well,
line
that's
is
like a lead balloon. When you
a
tell
lead
people
balloon.
that.
They phoned to cancel us. Oh, we suddenly have to go and babysit for Sylvia all day. We won't be home.
And we're going to keep the plants.
And we're going to keep the plant to watch it grow. She wanted to watch that one grow, how quickly, to see how it would develop. I don't blame her. That was a spectacular...
Bullshit.
Oh, well.
There you go again, making excuses for these assholes.
All right.
Bloody hell.
Well, it leaves us in a very lonely circle, doesn't it? The circle of 4 in this house. And the few out there of you who... However...
The friends we have are the genuine people, and that's all I want.
Yes. Now, what is interesting, I'm going to read a letter because John is back from Rome and
John's a saint.
Rome and
He's
Malta.
got a lovely wife. She's from the Philippines, isn't she?
Yes, and 3
And
sons.
3 lovely children.
3
And
sons.
The 2 older sons are anxious to meet.
Come
with us.
and meet
To
with
come and
us.
stay with us.
Now, John found us
You're very welcome to do so.
in July. So I'm going to read his letter, and then John is going to be on the program tomorrow. We will phone through Skype and have John talk of his impressions of Europe and what it is that he did. He left a lot of the apostolic letter, talked to as many people as he could, had some weird experiences, and I hope by tomorrow that John is able to tell of what he came across. He talked about random numbers that Yah has revealed and how they came from left field. And anyway, I'll read to you his email, but also on Twitter. Oh, I better not say anything.
Yes, go for it.
All right.
No secrets with this gentleman.
Yeah, well, it's Dr. Ray Haggins. He's a African American and preaches up a storm in his conclave of, I think he's in the New York area, or maybe Chicago. You can find out. Actually, I'll see where it. But anyway, I came across him because it caught my attention. One of his YouTube videos was titled "Jesus is Not Coming Back and the Rapture is a Lie." So I found him on Twitter last night. I'll go over there now. And
is this a Man Black Liberation Radio?
yes, that's it. Yes, it's all about black liberation.
It's a radio program.
Oh, it's radio, and it's a church, and it's a whole community. It's everything going.
Should let him know where we'll be in the 7th.
All right, so
Big
I
fella.
also sent it to OAK Initiative, which is a group of 300 that started out Christians around the globe. Now they're in 50 nations, and it was the lead of the Knights of Malta, a Greek guy who heads up this organisation in the USA. He was educated in the USA. So I tweeted them last night as well. Anyway, bottom line is this: Ray Haggins, I told him that you are right. I am not back as Jesus this time, but the Holy Ghost, the Comforter, the Father for my judgment, and the rapture is a lie. That's all I said. And he tweeted back when he got it and said, okay. So then, being astonished, I said, then preach it, and my new name of the revelation. Benedict made it easy for you and has been cut off for it. The 2 witnesses dead. And then I sent him the link to the apostolic letter, and then I said to him to be the first man in Christendom outside of Benedict who has the guts to preach my return. I can be contacted on Skype. You can talk to me on Skype. So let's see what he comes back with. But Dr. Ray Haggins, Hagins. So it may take a black man to have the guts to do what?
Well, the black people have got a big bone to pick with the Jews, because it was the Jews who was, not the white people, that was doing this slave trade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No doubt that the slave trade flourished when the Jews took these poor people captive out of Ghana and all those places, and they took advantage of it. Right? And they did mix in with the women quite willingly, because it was a little bit on the side down the back with the nice, pretty young Negro lasses. And they have a lot of babies to come out of that. A lot of people in America don't realise, Negro people, that they've got a lot of white blood in them. So you're proud of it anyhow.
Let's see.
Just may get it, you got it.
Yes. So let's see what comes of Dr. Ray Haggins. Will he take up the challenge?
Well, everybody out there, get into him.
Yes.
He's got a called Black Liberation. Good for him.
I'll put the
Black
link.
Liberation TV. Hey, he's on TV. Goodness me.
Yeah, does it say what area he's covering? It's might even be Chicago.
Well, we'll see. Just click on it and see what we get. The Black Liberation TV Network is the arm of the Lamplight Group Incorporated that is designed to encourage personal growth, perspective of African spirituality, self-awareness, education and enlightenment. It is necessary to understand that the proper spirituality is indispensable for true African liberation. We also understand spirituality may encompass the doctrines and teachings of a particular religion if an individual chooses to relate to that religion. Therefore, the Black Liberation TV Network promotes the resurrection and empowerment of African people through the ancient spiritual and cultural heritage. The goal of the Black Liberation TV Network is to help Africans become and begin to examine our inner self and to identify and it's gone off the page here, and dispel those characteristics that are foreign to us and inhabit our spiritual and personal growth and empowerment. Well, there you go.
So he's not actually a preacher. He's not preaching Christianity, is he? No. Good, anyway.
Anyhow, you can all look that up. It's called Black Liberation Network. Just Google that and you'll come up with it. His name is Ray Higgins, the Ray Higgins website. So, interesting. And he's a doctor, Dr. Ray Higgins. So, I'll just click on that and see what he says about himself. Big African-American fella, full of life, the looks of him. Huge. This looks like he flies a plane. If you would like to bring Dr. Higgins to your area, simply follow the 4-step below. Determine what expenses will be, travel, lodging, etc. Dr. Higgins' organisation, the Lamplight Group, is usually given an honoration honorarium of $1,000 for grassroots community non-profit organisations. However, for government-funded institutions, $2,500. That pays for all the expenses, the plane and everything else to get in there, which is fair enough. A lot cheaper than these other guys that charge $250,000. Yeah, so it's a non-profit group. He's just doing it for the love of Jesus and the African people.
Well, not necessarily even Jesus. I mean, there's nothing there that even goes near Christianity. Anyway, I'll just leave it as it is.
Find out, doesn't it?
All right.
As long as he's talking, who cares?
Yeah. The email now from John, we have his permission to read it.
We've got a couple of sneezes in first before you go.
Yeah. And wait on. This. Pretty hot here today. It was 29 degrees when we were out earlier. Got the fan going over there if it doesn't fall over. All right, dear Ash
I'm
and...
the biggest fan, Dale.
As long as you don't fall over. All right, dear Ash and Yar, I've been back for a week and a half. The first week I was getting over the jet lag of the 2 China Airways flights and waiting 5 to 8 hours at the airports for the flights. I've been meaning to email you when I got the chance and thinking of what to say to you. Sending an email to God isn't as easy as you think for me. You're doing great, John. I hope you can understand, especially with new information I've found, and this is the bit that regarding Yar's mathematical coincidences that are impossible to be random and that are found by unrelated others to Yar that prove that Satan's minions are hard at work and have been for many years, which I'll be making a video of as soon as I get the chance. I finally got time and my thoughts together tonight about the whole experience. Landing in Malta, I found myself quite lost, although approached several nuns the first week I was there to discuss Yar's arrival back to Earth. It wasn't well received, if you know what I mean, as they walked off. I understand why they would put Sister Maria in Malta. Its labyrinths of convents and churches. Even trying to find my second cousin, the priest, took 2 days. Even trying to find my second cousin, the priest, took 2 days, and I had visited at least 5 convents, and then I had to ask a police officer that didn't know, and he had to call someone else, and I only managed to find him the night I was to fly to Rome. Also, my wife and I fell ill in bed, ill for 3 days. The second week when we were there. Luckily, I brought some MMS and silver rods. The MMS didn't work too well because I was concerned about the doses, although the colloidal silver made us feel much better in a few days, even sprayed it into my sinuses and cleared the blocked nose almost instantly. I did also find problems with the internet over there. Many emails did not send to you guys and to my family. They just stayed in the drafts folder. When we landed in Rome, it was a bit of a disaster with the bus dropping us 1.5 kilometres from the hotel. So I had to drag the luggage and 3 boys all the way with a broken wheel on one of the bags. We were there for 3 days and were exhausted the first day. The second day I planned to go out with the video camera and the leaflets I had left over to talk to some priests. Before John went to Malta, he dropped off a lot throughout London, Buckingham Palace, and his first time in the Vatican, and that's when he talked to the German priest who knew all about it. That day I got dressed and managed to get my wife to mind the boys when I went out to the Vatican to discuss what people knew about Yah's return. Unfortunately, when I was in the Vatican Square, I managed to find several priests to discuss Yah and reached into my pocket to grab the leaflets, and they were not there. At that point, I got a real bad feeling. I didn't understand where they went. There was like a barrier when attempts were made to reach a priest when they came into view, and then they were thwarted by circumstance, whether it be traffic or the priest walking quickly into a street. It was very annoying, as I had arranged those 3 days in Rome for just this, and in some instances I was almost paralyzed when I was in their presence. I can't and don't understand this epic fail. I told him through the message it was probably for his own protection. We're dealing with murderers here. My wife and my sons and myself at this point have decided to try and migrate to Malta, as I did get my dual citizenship. So it's not over yet. Hopefully I'll be back within 12 months. I'm currently fixing the house for sale, and my wife will be going through the finances to plan things, being an accountant. Rome, I must admit, was the least pleasurable of the holiday, especially with the pollution, with the whole family coughing at one stage. Malta is the destination we hope to migrate to, although we did stay at France and Milan for several nights each. I had been there before, and Europe appears to have changed considerably, being very diverse and hugely multicultural. And the concern for me is the African migration, along with many others destroying the European cultures. In Malta, we stayed in the hotel with many different nationalities, mostly German and English, who were wonderful to be around. Even the locals were like family. Now I sit here in Australia thinking, what is this place? And what or who made it? There are some really nice people here, I know, but it is quite an effort for most to be nice these days here, when they are continuously getting kicked in the teeth by the government. Even the Turkish taxi driver that took us home from the airport was talking about his rich uncle from Turkey that came to Australia to buy a unit to stay when visiting his sisters. After the first week, he went home and said, with the monthly payments Australians have to pay, it is nothing but an open-air prison here. It seems to me Satan has even stolen the rightful existence from many people, maybe because he knew... Maybe because he knew he couldn't get their souls. Even till this day I feel uncomfortable walking through even a mall in Australia. When I take the family for long drives through the beautiful country, I can only think of the suffering the indigenous natives of this land went through and are going through, with at least one dying in custody every month in Western Australia. So I can barely imagine how Yah feels with some self-proclaimed Jewish royal family stealing his right to be on the throne, and with the help of her satanic associates driving Yah's world into the ground. Yah is so right. There are so many people fucked in the head, completely programmed. One lady I showed a leaflet to about Yah when I was hiring the car in Europe, and told her about Yah, went silent for a couple of seconds and continued about the rental. It was like she didn't hear what I told her, or her brain skipped a beat. All in all, Yah's Europe was beautiful. It was a great experience, but even people over there are just as in the dark as here, and maybe more so. When I get a chance, I'll go through the pictures and send you some. Again, I'm very sorry for the delay in getting back to you and the dismal fail of attempting to get mention of the apostolic letter on video from the Vatican, but I'll be making a video on some astounding information that coincides with Yah's distance calculations and how they are abnormally not random. Anyway, if things go to plan, I also hope to visit you guys up in Queensland. My two eldest sons are longing to meet you both. should we manage to resettle in Europe. Thank you guys so much for being the light at the end of this really dark tunnel, and thanks also for the daily shows.
Well, we're glad to hear he is back, and the boys want to meet us, and I'm very happy for them to come up
Yes,
and stay with us. We've got
we
lots
have
of room.
lots of, well, we've got several, lots of room.
Oh, dear.
All right, babe, so what did you... Now, so John will be on tomorrow. We will Skype with
Yes.
him and probably do a live program, so that'll be the way to do it.
Well, what I've been doing, this PowerPoint is quite a deal, really, and I've been digging into the historical lineage back to the Assyrians, their belief system, their genetics. Various studies have been done with the northern German people and or Germany overall, coming up with the same mitochondria and DNA of the Assyrians. And the Assyrians, ancient reports of that they were big, very strong people, blue-eyed, white-skinned, and yellow hair, red hair,
Blonde,
and
red,
some were dark, curly hair, which is typical of the German people today. So I've been into it quite extensively, and then looked it up and exposing the line of genetics. And what has happened, you've got the righteous line of Judah, and then you've got a story that completely conflicts with it, and that is the story of the coat of many colours, the youngest son being Joseph, of the 11 boys. He's the 11th. He was only 7 or 17 or 12 or something like that. When he decided that the brothers had had enough of him, because the inheritance of Jacob, Israel, was going to go to the 11th son. There is a younger son called Benjamin, but that doesn't really play into it that much, except for his number is 1144. And that's the area of Jerusalem where Jerusalem is, as a boy, become later as a nation or a state. So, the story goes that there's a dry well, and they throw the boy into it, and then they're going to leave him there to die. But Judah interferes, or intervenes, and goes back and arranges for the boy to be sold into Egypt. And the other boys have taken his coat, which is the coat of many colours. They kill the kid goat and sprinkle the blood on it. Now, here's the secret, what they have done. The kid goat represents the Jews of today because it's the devil. It is a Satan. So a kid goat biblically is a Satan, a devil. Okay? So they're taking the devil's blood and then take it back to the old man, and he sees the coat, know that his son is dead because the boys said that they found the body, etc. And in fact he's been sold into Egypt. Over time he becomes governor of Egypt. He then marries Asenath, the daughter of the high priest of On, the god of the underworld. He's the high priest of the god of the underworld in the city of On. And during a famine, the boys from Israel are sent by Jacob to buy provisions of Egypt, because they have been storing food under the instructions of Joseph, who is now the governor under the Pharaoh.
Yeah, so he was second in charge of all Egypt.
He was second in charge of all Egypt. Now, it's all bullshit, of course, but the point is, what they're trying to do here is take another line of thought away from the royal line of Judah, because when you get down to Judah and the various kings before and after the carrying away of the northern tribes, which were the evil ones of Solomon's 10 tribes, and remember Solomon was a black witch, and the temple was built by summoning demons to help him build it, and all sorts of things, witches apparently passed on through Ham, which were the incantations that were written on rocks prior to the flood. And so it's a story, right? So take it as you like. So it's a parable. A parable means that it's like this. This gives the idea of what could happen. It doesn't give you really the facts. But what we do know, however, is that these modern thinkers take this seriously as being through Freemasonry and the Jews that dominate the world today. They push it out through their churches, which is all Freemason, and all the Bibles are Freemason Bibles. King James Bible is a Freemason Bible. So the trap is in the Freemason Bible. The Jews aren't smart enough to realise that King James was way smarter than they are, all put together. And he encoded many codes in it. That's why there's 6,666 verses with the word Lord in it. And 1,404 in the Bible with Moses and his rant out of Egypt. And that is, of course, the word dragon in Greek, and that's how the kings and all fits together. Now, it doesn't mean that James and Edward de Vere, who was William Shakespeare, knew precisely what they was doing, but they had a fair idea. And if they didn't know, they was caused to do things that they might not have been able to comprehend at the time, which they knew that Christ would eventually come. So their angels caused them to do that. So what we end up with is, we read now the line of kings, which were Essene, down, and they are supposedly the line down to Joseph, the father of Jesus, right? Which wasn't the same. So we've got two lines of kings that have been broken by the Judah, who goes into his daughter-in-law Tamar, who has posed as being a harlot. And of course, it's all right for Joseph to go and screw in harlots, but it's not good for a woman to do that, because the woman can get pregnant. For example, Henry VIII beheaded his wife because she had a lover. And the idea was that if she got pregnant, he would think it's him, and in actual fact it's not him. So that was a capital offence, and she was only a 16-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid. She was beheaded for that. And so was the boyfriend. So he died of syphilis, by the way, so he was insane. So as it all turns out, then, that the tribe of Judah has been vilified, something like Christ is vilified today, and Hitler himself is vilified. And what they're trying to do is say, well, they'll never mention the Essenes were actually the royal tribe of Judah. And that when you get down to the carrying away in 722 BC of the northern tribes, the Essenes were in Jerusalem. They were the kings. So we have a missing period of 12 years between one king and the next. And that 12 years is when the Assyrian king was preached to by Jonas, repented, because these Syrians, remember, Assyrians, are the tall, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, skinned people, very, very large. That's why they were great fighters, because they were athletes. Right? And it was Jonas that Jesus referred to as being the only sign given. Well, the only sign, of course, is Jonas preached to them. He was three days in the belly of hell, and was spat up onto the, reincarnated, if you like, onto the shoreline, where he then goes off, knowing what it's like in hell. He then goes to Nineveh and convinces the king that the Essene message is the true one, which is almost identical to their beliefs anyhow. So they then started to move with their navy and walking and their armies and so forth. It's 2,800 kilometres, a straight line through the wilderness of Europe. Now, it would be lost to eat on the way, even though there was millions of people involved, because the army would keep them supplied. Or they'd go through the trading ships up through the northern part of Italy, and then it's a short walk, less than 1,000 kilometres into Germany. So the genetics and DNA that they've been able to research, and this is all done by several different universities and different doctors and so forth, and scientists and so forth, have come and said, well, they are Assyrians. But in this PowerPoint I put all that in, but also I add to the fact that they worship the same gods, just by different names. And this is why the Jews slam, as much as they can, the line of gods, if you like, which was Yahweh Asherah. Right? It's all the same thing, all the same people. So they slammed that. That's why it was in Palestine. That's why Palestine's been kicked around, because they are also descended from, in a direct line from Noah. And they are, of course, from the Assyrian side, they're descended from Shemite. So this is why the Jews in their normal way will always reverse things to their advantage. So they become a Semite, which it's been admitted now. You look it up on the internet. The Jews themselves admit it's a lie. Wasn't that Rosenthal that...
Rosenthal, yeah, he exposed it all.
He spoke all about the 5 different lies.
The
Jesus
5
was
great
a Jew
lies.
for a start.
Yeah.
And that they were Semites when they weren't. And what else? What was the other 3 lies?
Oh, that it's just a religion, that being Jewish is a religion and not a race. Well, it's not a religion, it's all about a race. The Holocaust. 6 million died in the Holocaust.
They're the ones that survived in almost in a paradise situation, and up until Germany was bombed relentlessly with firebombs through Dresden and so forth. And it was also what many people would not know, that in World War II, Hitler tried not to go to war.
Oh, yes. He was the greatest peacekeeper of all time.
Right. But they were determined to go to war. They had a treaty set up with Poland because the Polish soldiers were butchering the Germans after the Versailles Treaty that had redivided Germany up into giving the area to Poland. And the German people living there were being butchered, and in a most inhumane way by the soldiers, and therefore the Hitler had said to democracies, why do you let this happen? Do something about it, because they didn't. So he decided to go in there, but there was a treaty between England and Poland that if Poland was invaded, England would come to the rescue. But before that, the war started because of the Jewish Federation had declared war on Germany out of New York. It was all over the newspapers. Judaism declares war on Germany.
Judea declares war on Germany, yeah. Now, these are the 5 major falsehoods. The Jews have established 5 major falsehoods which work to conceal their nature and protect their status and power, to wit. So this is from the Harold Rosenthal interview in 1976 that did get him killed months later. Number 1, the Jews are Israelites and thus God's chosen people. 2, Jesus Christ was a Jew. 3, that 6 million Jews were killed in a Holocaust during World War II. 4, that all races are equal, or that all are brothers. And 5, that the Jews are just another religious group. So they're the 5 great lies.
Alright, so I continue with my usual position of the moon and so forth on different dates, and link it all together to make it easily understood. I point out that the 2 lies of the genetics of how Joseph is in, and by the way, we've been to Egypt. There's no sign of the Exodus, that there were people of the Hebrew race. And also you've got to remember that when you read about anything that is, they say it's Jewish, like even in the Bible, it talks about when there's this word means such a Jewish word. Like, it's not, it's Hebrew. Right? Jewish is the word that come out of the atrocity where 75,000 people were killed when Esther, who turned the tables, if you like, when the Jews were going to be turfed out the country.
Yeah.
She turned the tables, got the king to make a decree that anyone attacking the Jews should be killed. So the Jews went and killed 75,000 of his own.
That's their holy day of Purim.
Yeah.
And they always start a war on it somewhere in the world, and it falls usually in February or early March. So I can think of the invasion into Iraq on March the 3rd, 2003. That was Purim.
Yeah. So, like any child molester, you've got to expose it, prove it, be dismayed by it, be abhorred by it, and then take them out. So, being the soft pansy Jesus type, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do, that's bullshit. Then what you've got to remember is that there is vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Well, I'm taking advantage of that because my vengeance is going to be swift. Now, as of the last few days, what's been happening in the skies, which has got to be one of the greatest signs in history, which no one seems to be taking much notice of, because it's all covered up by whom? The people that control the media, which are the same people which I'm talking about. Right? They control all governments. Right? So whatever nation you live in, you're going to have a hoodie behind the driver's seat. You don't know it, but he's there. The whole thing goes back to, what was it, around the 1600s with the Taliban. And it says that they will become the doctors,
1452 it was.
Right,
that's in the part of the Nihilist report.
So the Nihilist report tells us that they are in the Talmud, they are so evil that they will infiltrate into the clergy, into the churches, of course, the hospitals that they had at that time, I forget now. But the medical field, the scientists, and of course politicians. In fact, if you look up the Jews that have been in power in England, there are several. Disraeli, for example, Rosebery is another, Balfour's another, all Jews that were Prime Ministers of England. So there's many of them. And this is only started after the beheading of Charles I on January the 30th, 1649. And I should make mention, I don't know whether I talked about it yesterday, but I had purchased an Encyclopedia Britannica in 1968, and when I went to Africa I took it with me because I used to read it every night. The very first thing I looked at was the beheading of Charles I, and he was supposed to have been beheaded on Wednesday according to the Britannica. When I looked into who owned the Britannica, it's owned by Sears Roebuck, which is the largest catalogue people in America, and they have been taken over, of course, by being bought out Jews during the ability to print their own fiat currency. I didn't think they wanted to print the money for it. That's it. I mean, can you imagine you want to buy a new car? It doesn't mean I get a print and press the money. Give myself $500,000, go buy Rolls.
We've designed your currency, we can do that.
We've already got my currency designed. So this is how it all works. So Sears Roebuck, a Jewish corporation. Oh yes, I did mention it yesterday. Because I was the one who wired up.
Yes, wired up the 666.
666.
So the 6666 wires up the
America,
666.
I wired it.
Now, you just mentioned the beheading of Charles I, which is when you were alerted to the bullshit of the Britannica. Well, I just happened upon the letter from Cromwell. So this is dated the 16th of June in 1647. It's from Oliver Cromwell. They refer to him as OC. And this is when he was writing to the Jews in Amsterdam. Quoting, "In return for financial support, I will advocate admission of Jews to England. This, however, impossible while Charles living. Charles cannot be executed without trial, adequate grounds for which do not at present exist. Therefore advise that Charles be assassinated, but will have nothing to do with arrangements for procuring an assassin, though willing to help in his escape." In reply was dispatched the following. It's dated the 12th of July 1647 to OC Oliver Cromwell by E. Pratt. Quote, "Will grant financial aid as soon as Charles removed and Jews admitted. Assassination too dangerous. Charles will be given opportunity to escape. His recapture will make trial and execution possible. The support will be liberal, but useless to discuss terms until trial commences." So Oliver Cromwell, the greatest traitor in all history.
Yeah.
The readmission of the Jews into England. It was shortly after this the Bank of England, of course, opened up in London.
Central Bank of the world.
Central Bank. Yep. So there it is. 16th of June, 1647.
What date?
16th of June, 1647, day before your Jesus' birthday.
The day after James, the 6th of Scotland, James the 1st of England.
Right. Okay, now, you keep talking, I'm finding again that quote.
There is, in this PowerPoint, I've gone into the astronomy of it as well. And I've taken the Bible verses, which I don't really like to do, but then again, you have to, because it's so blatantly obvious once you compare one series of parables, and you can only view it from a parable point of view because it didn't happen. The throwing of the boy into the pit and then having him sold by Judah into Egypt, then later the crossing of the hands when the old man Jacob is blind and he goes to Egypt to see his grandsons from his son who is married now to the daughter of the high priest of On, of the god of the underworld. That's where the Jew Baal On comes from. On is the high priest area. And so he crosses his hands, and now the younger inherits. Because Joseph sees what his father's doing, but the old man's blind. He says, "Father, you're wrong. You've got the right hand of the blessing on the younger son." And he said, no, my son, the younger son is the one I want to be the inheritor of Israel. And the left hand is Manasseh. He will become a great nation. And Ephraim, the son, the younger son, will become a greater nation. So what they had to deal with, they didn't know about Australia, so they have Joseph as Egypt, then we have Manasseh as England, and then Ephraim as America to become the greatest nation on earth. However, once they discovered Australia, this was a problem. This is what Cook was all about. When he sailed to Tahiti, he had secret orders to look for a location that was an alternative to Australia. The argument being at the time that the astronomers and mathematicians had worked out that there must be a huge continent to keep the world in balance, otherwise they'll topple over. That's the bullshit they believed at that time. And he had secret orders because they knew about Australia. It had been discovered by the Dutch in the 1600s, and also Fernandez, the Portuguese explorer, who had declared that the southlands of the Holy Ghost, which was from the New Hebrides, New Hebrides area, all to the South Pole, all nations to the South Pole around the world where we preached the Holy Gospel of Jesus. Right? So that was November the 6th in what year? 14?
No, May 15th.
I'm getting old.
I know, May 15th, 1606.
No, I was close.
Or May 14th, 15th, 1606.
All right, so once that had been known, of course, now they've got a problem. So he was given, Cook was given orders after trying to observe the transition of Venus, which was also being carried out by 77 countries because they were trying to work out the distance to the sun. Right, that's the whole idea of it. And they come up with 100,000 miles. So a little bit out, like about 93 million miles out. And with the secret orders, he's told to sail south, which he does. And he gets down to 71 degrees 10 by 168 east, and that is almost directly below New Zealand. And he runs into an ice wall. The ship he had was the Endeavour. It had been double-hulled with and sailed ropes with hemp, which they used in those days because it's the strongest material. And they ran into this ice wall, and they was going to sink, and then the crew with mast poles managed to push free by an act of God. And then they start sailing north towards New Zealand, which was already discovered 127 years before that by Howard Tasman. Now, as they're sailing up, Cook notes, and this is where they all fall over. Cook was pedantic for writing things down. So he writes in the ship's log that he sighted a comet, a magnificent comet. So he was a white man with his crew in the South Pacific, be the first Europeans to see a comet in the South Pacific, in the southern hemisphere. And he wrote down the date, which was the 30th of August in 1769. So he's sailing up in New Zealand and he's got with him a Harrison clock. Now the Harrison clock was invented by John Harrison, and the Harrison goes back to my grandmother. She's related to him, right? And the Harrisons go back to the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs came to England in 847 AD and changed their name because of the terrors and horrors that were going on with the royal family, and they were the royal family getting out. Right? So we have the Jewish Habsburgs, they take over the Habsburgs, they're Jews, right? And that's what caused Hitler to raise up against them. So the true Habsburgs go down to my grandmother. So on that date, if you add 8 days, it gives you my birthday. 2013.
When you were 69.
When I was 69 years old.
Jehovah.
69 is Jehovah in English Gematria. And if you add to the discovery of it in France by Messier, the French astronomer, that was on the 8th of August. So the 8th of the 8th. Right? Another coincidence, if you like, you look up Isaiah 8:8, and it's got the word Emmanuel in it. Anyhow, as it turns out, if you add 8 days to that, you get Rhiannon's birthday, which is my stepdaughter, in the year 2012, which is the eve of the crossing of the Milky Way galaxy according to the Mayan calendar. Right? So, as this all turns out, she becomes the mother of Alaska, and she was born when my mother Daphne, who was dead by then, would have been 88.8 years old. And then you've got Trinity, the younger sister, who is my mother Mary, reincarnate, and she was born eight weeks after I married my second wife. So you can see the synchronicity is all lined up. I can't get out of it. As a matter of fact, I've said often that watch out around my birthday because people have a livelihood to protect, and if they haven't got their inheritance in order for the next generation, because they usually die. Like my auntie died on my birthday, my mother died on my niece's birthday, my nephew's birthday, and my aunt's birthday. My uncle died, who, but politely, died on my sister's birthday, and his wife a year later on the same day on my sister's birthday. Right? My father was, or Reginald, my stepfather, was born on his brother's birthday, 7 years, and then my uncle, Edward Golightly, was born 9 years after on his birthday. My niece was born on my birthday. My brother is 8.88 years older than I. Tracy, born in Canada when the sunlight was 888 minutes for that day. I was 8,880 days old, which is Matthew 123, which is Emmanuel, which is 1694, and 169.4 nautical miles from the Mill Street address, which is 31680 kilometres around the Earth, and 5813, the height of the pyramid from the South Pole, is Mount Kosciuszko, which is 2228 metres, which is the age I was when I married my first wife, 22.28 years, which is 116.26 weeks, which is the age between Rhiannon and Tracy.
And the width of the antechamber.
And on it goes. And Michelle, same number in days younger than I. So, the amount of coincidence is so astounding that I have to look at every detail. And that is why this new PowerPoint I'm doing, I do look at every detail. And it takes a long time to do each of these things because I'm doing calculations of distances out to the planets. With the modern astronomy I can do that. I can go back in time or forward in time. I can look at positions of the sun and the moon and all planets, and then relate that to a longitude and latitude. I can put that into another computer program I've got which is 100% accurate. That will give me the distances between the two planets, or in this case the sun and the moon, or than any location on earth, whether it be my birthplace, where the hospital I was born into, or where I'm living today with my lovely little sausage over here. And got a lovely skin, haven't she? And now we're selling the formula. We do take PayPal, and
I'll give you the formula. It's really simple.
it's called facelift. Cheers, darling.
It's actually not drinking coffee. Because what coffee does, caffeine raises the cortisol. Cortisol is known as the death hormone.
Now you're telling me.
Yeah. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and while it's continually elevated by drinking coffee, then you're slowly dying. Faster than... No, that's right, but yeah.
So that's what this next PowerPoint's all about. So it's interesting to see if we'll get on the radio in America again.
Yes, Donnie's interview is coming up on the 6th of November, so it'll be Friday here.
That's 32 degrees of
well, no, we don't know that it's called that anymore. It's something different, and it's the broader Los Angeles FM. It's like real radio.
Well, there's a lot more people.
Good on you, Donnie. Good on you, Donnie.
Well, here's the mountains ahead, isn't it? So it always comes up with some interesting stuff, though, even though a lot of it is a bit hairy-fairy.
What? Now, Daniel's asking about Lilith.
Lilith is an invented, another thing, these Jews that they're going in. Lilith was the first wife of Adam.
Lilith.
If you'll see that in, what was that program? Cheers, the doctor in Cheers got his own program. I'm listening, he'd always say. His wife and that was Lilith.
Lilith, babe.
Well, whatever.
Lilith. Lilith.
They're enough. It's all that bullshit. It doesn't matter. So the idea being that Adam, his first wife, she wanted to be as good as Adam in the what did you do?
These are my real glasses. Have just fallen to pieces.
Well, the pin fell out of one?
Yes, the pin. I've got the pin. Hello? These are these optometrist frames. I expect
you've got to put the screw back in.
Yeah. Well, I hope the parts are there to do it.
Optometrist, because they are guaranteed. You paid, what, $18 for that?
25. These are but it's
I thought
an
you paid
optometrist
hundreds for it. I'm sorry.
No, well, no, only 20. It was not. There was on. He was having a special sale, $25 frames. So I made sure I got the $25 frames, and look what happens. You expect this from Flash Harry's $3.95 frames. The
same optician tested my eyes, and he says, "Oh, you got a cataract in the right eye. You got this, and blah blah blah." And he tests my eyes out. I see better than he does.
Yes.
Right? And I'm reading the lowest line, right?
Yeah.
He says, "You see better out of the one eye, which is supposed to be the faulty eye."
Yeah, the one with the cataract. You read better out of that than the other one. Oh.
I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll get rid of the cataract. All I've got to do is know about it and I'll get rid of it."
So since then you've been washing your eyes with your own pee?
Well, I hope it was. I'll have to go on that. Yeah. You haven't been dipping into it. Now it's starting to go down. Yeah, urine. Your own urine is the best eye wash you can do.
Yes. Your own urine is good for a lot of things. It
like
reprograms your body.
While you're doing that?
Yes. I've got them on. I've got another pair on. Okay, so bottom line is Lilith is all another fabrication and bullshit. Bullshit.
Look, the stories that come out of the Old Testament is, for the most part, should be viewed as a parable. And when it's God speaking in the Old Testament, it wasn't God speaking, it's Lucifer speaking. The only thing you can go on is that the likes of Isaiah, Jonah, and all these people, they're all Essene, and they had their, occasionally an angel would show up, but for the most part, the information comes to them in dreams and visions.
Right.
So, don't be too concerned about it. But once you get away from the stories, you've got to realise that they are manipulated and parables to cause the evil ones to be the dominant in the end, which they are. So therefore, we now have a world that's completely run by the demons of pre-flood. So did the flood happen? Of course it happened. I told you how it happened, how Mars approached Earth during a point where we crossed over the Milky Way galaxy, and this happens on a regular basis if you wanted to look at it from the going back in time, a very long period of time, you can say millions of years. Well, it didn't happen over millions of years, but if you did roll it back with astronomy programs, you can do that. You can go back as many million years as you like, because it's all based on Kepler's laws, and that is all falling apart at the moment because we have the influence of these other planets and a couple of suns that we found down in Antarctica. And looking at the moon, for example, we have a photograph of the moon when it should be full. We can calculate that easy enough. Then we go into our software, computer software, and it's out by 7 days. Because you see the size of the crescent moon or the waning moon, the shadow or the light, you can see how big it is. You can just do a screen capture and measure it. And then you bring up the computer, which is not online. This is software I've had for nearly 30 years, and it's 100% accurate. And you can compare what it should be to what it is. So all they've done in modern times, since they've the introduction of these magnetic fields coming up from Antarctica and causing the moon to flip upside down, they're not talking about it. There's the moon flipping upside bloody down. I'm not talking about that. Like, if that's not a phenomenon, I don't know what is. Right? We even got a report or a communication back from the Iranian, what's his name? What was the Iranian guy we were talking to at one stage? He said Jupiter did not turn upside down. I said, bullshit. Jupiter did. Still doing it. What's his name? My dinner jacket. I'm a dinner jacket.
I'm a dinner jacket. I'm a dinner jacket.
I'm a dinner jacket.
I'm a dinner jacket. All right, we're almost out of time, babe.
Are we?
Gotta go, yes.
That's a shame, I was on a roll there.
Were you? Anyway, bottom line is, Daniel, that Lilith is another fabrication. As far as the Book of Enoch goes, yes, read it for the interest factor. Enoch was real and he was righteous. Don't get too hung up in trying to interpret what it's about. But yeah, it's the judgment. He saw the first and the second judgment, the first judgment being the flood, and the second one, the total consummation, which is the
Now, going back to the Old Testament, we do know that these people did live those very long lives, and the flood happened because, what I was going to say, when Mars approached Earth, all the water from Mars, you can look at Mars and all the water's gone. Where is it? You can see it's been there, right? It's not cooled by bloody wind because there's no atmosphere to speak of. So the water did start to flow onto the Earth over a 40-day period before the actual influence of Mars on the Earth, the North Pole lining up, and they bump together. You can see that in Iceland and Greenland, how the shape of the material has been pushed out to over 7,000 feet high when the impact occurred, and that's why there's a depression in the North Pole, and Antarctica has been punched out. Will the moon come out through that? Right? We put the moon back into the Earth, it brings it back up to 25,000 miles around its radius, which is your sacred number. The width of the pyramid is 9131.06 inches, and therefore divide that by the solar year, 3652424, which is the base all the way around it. It is 25 years across each side of the pyramid.
So
and this was built before the flood. Now, we've been there, we've looked at the bloody the Sphinx. It's all been eroded away where the flood come rushing through to carve all this soft limestone by the rushing waters, just like the
Canyon.
Grand Canyon. Right, the water would rush through the Grand Canyon where it's the deepest, it's highest. Like the river, where it started and where it ends, there's two different heights. So something carved all that out. And what it was, if you go to the Great Lakes, you can see how the water was flooding down all over the United States, which is there evident today, like what's over a mile deep or something. Now, as the Earth and the Moon and the Earth and Mars got closer and closer together, all the water started to be drawn off of Mars, and that's why you got 40 days of the deluge. Now, the gravitational field, it increased the pull on the sea as the Moon does today, gives you the tides. Well, you can imagine Mars, which is 2/3 the size of the Earth in width, and the magnetic field of Mars pulled on the oceans of the Earth, so that as the Earth's rotating, it rotated through this 100-mile high flood of water. It had already increased the height by average of 168 feet by the simple mathematical equations, and by Dr. Ballard, who discovered the Titanic. He had the CIA equipment, which was part of his reward for finding a Russian sub or two that had sunk in 12,000 feet of water. The deal with him was, find the sub, we'll give you the camera and the submersibles to use. So he got them, and he discovered around the Mediterranean, which is also 16,000 feet deep today, he discovered the coastline 168 feet down, where the towns and cities were, and also in the Black Sea, meaning where did all this bloody water come from? Right? Well, it came off Mars, of course. So when Mars hit the Earth and bounced off it, when you're talking maybe a very, very slow speed, could be 20 miles an hour, and it bounced off, right? And away it went. Right? So there was this tremendous cataclysm on the Earth that pushed mountains up, and Mount Everest and all this kind of thing, and moved continents around to a certain extent. And of course this is all to do with the calculations already laid out when they built the pyramid to be the centre of the gravitational fields and the centre of the Earth mass and the height of all these mountains. If you level them all off and fill up the valleys, you got the height of the pyramid up to the missing capstone, 454.6 feet. Right? So that number, when you convert that to Hebrew, gives you the value of Isaiah 19 and 19:20 in Hebrew, which is 5, I'll give it to you roughly in feet, because you've got to convert it to Hebrew inches or pyramid inches. And that is 5454 English inches, which is slightly smaller by 1.00106 of an inch. So you can do the calculation. And that is the value of Isaiah 19:19 and 19:20, which talks about the pillars of the Lord and Mist of Egypt, which is the Great Pyramid, and the centre of the landmass.
We're over time.
Oh, thank you.
And we've got to upload. It's midday and we're still recording.
All right, see you later.
Later, Gators.